The chandelier above me glittered like 1,000 knives, each one reflecting back my shame. All around, the wedding hall roared with applause as my sister twirled in her designer gown, playing the princess of the night. Then my mother's voice, sugary venom, sliced through the music. "Rachel," she called, loud enough for every guest to hear, "hand over your house papers to your sister. Ungrateful kids don't deserve comfort." My name is Rachel, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been cornered by the very people who were supposed to protect you? I stared at her, the woman who'd raised me, who was now tearing me down in front of 250 strangers. Her eyes were bright with entitlement, no hint of doubt, no room for mercy. My father stepped closer, voice thick with authority. "Your sister is starting a new life. You owe her. You're single. You don't need a house." My pulse went cold. The air in my throat felt like fire. My sister, my own sister, turned from the stage, her veil pinned perfectly, makeup flawless, but her smile was a predator's grin. "Well," she demanded, hand outstretched. "Don't be selfish." Selfish. The word rang in my head like a war drum. I tried to breathe. "No," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "That house is mine." Her eyes flared. A heartbeat later, her palm cracked across my cheek, so hard I nearly stumbled. The gasp from the guests was sharp, but then they laughed. They laughed. My mother nodded with approval, like violence was the language of love. Something inside me turned to stone. I straightened, face burning, heart pounding like it might shatter through my ribs. I looked around at the sea of smug faces, their cruel delight simmering in the fairy lights. "Fine," I whispered. "You want to play games?" My sister smirked, confident she'd broken me. I met her eyes ice cold. "Then let's play." Because if they thought they could humiliate me on this stage, they hadn't yet seen the storm I was willing to unleash. And I would make them regret underestimating me, one ruthless, perfect move at a time. The wedding band picked up again, drowning out the echo of that slap, but I still felt its sting burning like a brand on my cheek. My sister laughed with her bridesmaids, tossing her hair like nothing had happened, like I was just another pebble under her diamond-studded heels. My parents beamed, soaking in the applause of 100 well-fed guests, proud of their precious daughter. And I stood there, fists clenched, humiliated, every nerve in my body screaming. No one saw me slip out the side door, into the winter-dark night, the air slicing through me cleaner than any applause ever could. I pressed my back to the stone wall outside, breathing hard, rage clawing at my ribs until I thought I might choke on it. Ungrateful kids don't deserve comfort. My mother's words cut deeper than the slap. Ungrateful? I'd worked 2 jobs, built a life brick by brick while they poured every blessing into my sister's perfect smile. I'd bought my own house, paid every bill, stood on my own 2 feet while they left me to rot. And tonight, they tried to strip that away too. No, I would not let them. I turned my phone over in my hand, thumb hovering above the name I hadn't dared call in years. Mr. Carter, the lawyer, who once told me if they ever crossed the line, he'd be ready. My heart pounded as I dialed. He answered on the second ring. "Rachel." I swallowed, voice like broken glass. "I'm done. I want to activate the clause." Silence. Then a slow exhale. "Are you sure?" I looked through the frosted window, watched them laughing inside, dancing, sipping champagne bought with my sacrifices. "Absolutely," I said. "Then consider it handled," he replied, ice cold and reassuring. I ended the call, a strange, quiet calm settling in my bones. When I stepped back inside, the heat and perfume slapped me harder than my sister ever could. But I held my head high, shoulders square, eyes forward. My sister saw me and smirked, thinking I was crawling back. But I only smiled, slow and poisonous. Because the game had begun. And this time, I would be the one writing the rules, no matter what it cost them. The party roared on, as if nothing had cracked. Laughter spilled over crystal glasses, cameras flashed, heels tapped on the polished floor, all choreographed to perfection. But my blood felt like liquid fire, each heartbeat steadying me for the war I'd just declared. I walked back through the hall, eyes dry, chin lifted. My sister caught my gaze, smirk still glued to her face, certain I'd come crawling to beg forgiveness. She even stepped closer, voice syrupy and cruel. Changed your mind? Ready to be useful for once? I looked at her hand, that ring so oversized it looked like a hostage situation, and felt a calm that chilled me to the marrow. No, I said. I just wanted to see how happy you'd be for now. Her brow creased. What does that mean? But I was already moving past her, ignoring the stares, ignoring my parents' smug approval as if they were royalty granting me pity. My phone buzzed, one short message from Mr. Carter. Filed. Executed. Congratulations. My breath hitched, a twisted sort of relief flooding me. They didn't know that the house they wanted to steal from me was protected under a fail-safe trust. A trust one had activated that night, transferring full rights to a silent partner who'd hold it airtight, beyond their greedy claws. But that wasn't all. I had added something else to the documents, something sharp as a dagger. A legal motion freezing my sister's joint assets with her new husband. All those glittering wedding gifts? Blocked. The expensive honeymoon? Cancelled by a single line of contract. My father tried to approach me near the cake table, that sickening smile pasted on. You came to your senses then? I tilted my head, letting the crystal lights catch my coldest smile. Actually, I came to watch you all crumble. He blinked, confused. You'll see soon, I promised. The MC called for a toast. My sister beamed, raised her glass, the princess of the hour. But I stood there, watching her, a storm disguised in satin. Because she'd chosen to slap me in front of 250 guests. Now I would let 250 guests witness her empire collapse, piece by piece, with me still standing while she fell. And no one, not even the golden child, would ever humiliate me again. The first sign of the storm came minutes later, like a quiet crack in glass. One of the catering managers slipped through the tables, pale as a ghost, whispering frantically to my brother-in-law. His face drained of color, confusion twisting into raw panic. My sister turned, irritation creasing her perfect makeup. What's wrong now? The caterer stammered. The payment, it was reversed. No funds. Gasps rippled through the hall like a slow wave. My brother-in-law checked his phone, fingers trembling. Then he looked up, horror etched across every line of his face. The honeymoon booking is gone. Cancelled. My sister's mouth fell open. What are you talking about? I stood perfectly still, a calm in the center of their crumbling fairy tale. My mother pushed forward, frantic. What's happening? And then I spoke, voice sharp as shattered crystal. That's what happens when you try to steal from me. All eyes turned to me, hundreds of guests frozen with shock. My sister's hands balled into fists. You did this. I stepped forward, measured, unstoppable. I protected what was mine. And you, dear sister, signed away every right to your accounts the moment you tried to take my house. A hush fell so deep, even the string quartet faltered. My father lunged closer, voice thick with rage. You ungrateful. Ungrateful. I cut him off, steady and cold. I built my life alone while you spent every cent propping her up. You made your choice. Now live with it. My sister shook her head, hairpins rattling. Fix this. Right now. I tilted my head, letting my contempt show. No. The hush turned into a roar of whispers, guests pulling out phones, recording, devouring the drama they'd paid to witness. My sister's eyes filled with desperate tears, but no one moved to comfort her. I glanced around, calm as a queen among ruins. You show me my place tonight, I said, voice steady, echoing through the glittering hall. Now let me show you yours. And with that, I turned on my heel, leaving them choking on their own pride, the wedding crumbling behind me like a house of cheap glass. They had made me an outcast. I had made myself a legend. I stepped out into the night, the chill cutting cleaner than any apology could. Behind me, The wedding hall erupted in chaos. Voices shouting, plates crashing. A perfect party turned into a battlefield. My phone buzzed. Mr. Carter again, confirmed. Assets frozen. No one can touch your house. A rush of triumph flooded my veins. For so long, they'd called me ungrateful, selfish, small. Now they'd learned that the girl they tried to humiliate was the one holding every string. I watched through the tall glass windows as my sister dropped to her knees, mascara running, begging the event staff to stay, to serve food they could no longer pay for. My parents hovered over her, shocked and helpless, no money left to bribe or threaten. My father caught sight of me outside, rage twisting his face. He pushed through the guests, storming toward me, voice low and poisonous. "Rachel," he growled, "how dare you ruin this family's reputation?" I met his eyes, steady and unflinching. "Reputation? You all laughed while she slapped me in front of 250 people. That's the reputation you built." He tried to speak, but I held up a hand. "You will never touch what's mine again," I said, each word slicing through him. "Not my house. Not my name. Not my peace." His mouth opened, then closed, as if he finally saw me for the first time, no longer the expendable daughter, but the storm he could never cage. My sister stumbled to the door, wedding gown bunched in shaking hands, cheeks streaked with ruined makeup. "Please," she sobbed, "you can't do this. Fix it. You have to fix it." I looked at her, at the golden child who had devoured every kindness I'd ever been denied, who slapped me without hesitation because she was taught I had no worth. "I don't have to fix anything," I told her, voice like frost. "You taught me that." Her face collapsed, shoulders crumbling under the weight of consequences no one had ever made her carry before. Somewhere deep inside, a tiny ache tried to stir, but I buried it. They had chosen their cruelty. Now they could live in it. I turned and walked away, each step a quiet vow that I would never again bow to their twisted idea of love. And this time, I would never look back. The night swallowed me as I left them behind, the wedding hall still echoing with their frantic voices. The air outside felt so sharp it almost tasted clean, slicing through the poison they'd tried to drown me in. I walked slowly, letting the rage simmer down into something colder, clearer, resolve. My phone buzzed again. "Everything is secured," Mr. Carter had texted. "Your trust is safe. They can't touch a dime." I exhaled, my shoulders finally, truly loosening. For years, they'd made me their scapegoat, their afterthought, their designated sacrifice whenever things got tight. Now, they would see what happened when the scapegoat grew horns. I hailed a taxi and climbed in, ignoring the curious glance from the driver. "Where to?" he asked. "Home," I said. The word felt brand new. As we drove away, I let myself remember the moment my sister's hand cracked across my face, the applause that followed, the sneers. The bile rose again, but I swallowed it back down. Never again. When I stepped into my house, I locked the door behind me and stood there, breathing in the silence like a blessing. No one was going to show up tomorrow demanding a piece of it. No one was going to order me to bow down for someone else's happiness. My phone buzzed one last time, a number I knew by heart, my mother's. I stared at it ringing until it went to voicemail. Then I blocked it. I stood there alone, feeling no fear, no doubt, no shame. I made tea, letting the warmth settle deep inside me, and watched the city lights through my window. I wondered what they were doing right now, scrambling to explain to 250 guests why the wedding had collapsed in the final hours. It almost made me laugh. They had built their entire story on crushing me. And tonight, I'd torn the foundation out from under them with a single word. No. I walked through every room of my house, touching the walls, breathing its peace, knowing that it was mine in a way no one could ever rewrite. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged exactly where I stood. Morning broke like a quiet revolution, sunlight creeping across my floors, brushing against the curtains I'd chosen, the table I'd bought, the walls I'd painted. All of it mine. Untouchable. I moved through the house barefoot, letting that truth sink in. No one could take this from me. Not anymore. The phone stayed silent, eerily so, after I'd blocked their numbers. A part of me wondered if they were still reeling, still fighting to understand how the doormat they'd slapped around had become a fortress overnight.
Good.
Let them wonder. By noon, I checked the news out of pure curiosity. It was all there, social media flooded with posts from guests who'd witnessed the meltdown of the century. Videos, gossip, the entire glorious implosion of their perfect illusion. The bride is bankrupt. The parents demanded a house. The sister refused. My sister's flawless image lay in tatters, right where she'd left me on the night she decided to strike me in front of everyone. I sipped my coffee, calm. No pity left in me. Mark, one of the few cousins who had always seen through their games, texted, "Proud of you. About time someone ended their reign." I smiled, a quiet, unbreakable smile. The doorbell rang in the afternoon, sharp and unexpected. My heart skipped, then steadied. I opened it to find a deliver man with a letter, the official documents confirming the trust had finalized, ironclad. I signed for it, holding the thick envelope in my hands, the final seal on my freedom. They couldn't lay a single finger on me now. I went to my mirror, studying my reflection, a woman who had been humiliated, beaten down, mocked, and found no shame staring back. Only fire. They had chosen their precious daughter's happiness over my dignity. They had chosen to laugh while I burned. So I had burned them back, colder and cleaner than they could ever dream. That night, I fell asleep with no nightmares, no begging, no fear, because I had finally learned the only rule that mattered. No one could steal my worth unless I handed it to them, and I would never hand it over again. The world outside moved on. Weddings came and went. Families posed for pictures, but their kingdom had crumbled beyond repair. The group chats I was quietly part of buzzed with stories of how my sister's honeymoon was canceled, how the venue demanded cash payments she couldn't make, how my parents were begging for loans to keep up appearances. They had made me their cautionary tale, the daughter who was supposed to bow, to give, to break. Instead, I became their reckoning. A week later, I got one last message. From my sister. "You ruined everything. Please fix it." I stared at the words, hollow and frantic, imagining her frantic tears on the other side of the screen. I let them sit there, unread, unanswered. Then I deleted them. I wasn't going to waste another second patching up a world that was never meant to hold me. Instead, I poured myself a cup of coffee, stepped outside onto my quiet little patio, breathing in the soft morning air that was truly mine. I thought of my house, the walls I'd fought for, the sanctuary no one could rip away, and felt a calm settle deep inside me. They could rage. They could scheme. They could mourn the loss of their precious illusions. I was done. My father, my mother, my sister, they would never again be given the power to decide my worth. I had paid in pain, in humiliation, in heartbreak for every inch of peace I now claimed, and I would never apologize for it. As the sun climbed higher, warm on my skin, I let one last vow root itself in my bones. They might have tried to destroy me with a slap, with public laughter, with demands that I crumble. But I had risen, stronger,